things I do, I've started doing this recently, are these online classes about an hour long where I'm giving a little bit of nervous system education, but mainly we're practicing. We're doing what I call neurosensory exercises. So working with the principles of orienting to the environment, connecting with our environment under us, sensing our sensations, our breath, not changing the breath, but focusing, tracking, and noticing what the felt sense is in the body. Now, this is but a small piece of the work I do with my students, but because these folks are new to the work, their questions are obviously 100% valid, and they bring up some interesting and important feedback that our system gives us when we really do drop into the nervous system level, specifically the autonomic nervous system level. So one of the things that people will often say when we start to orient to our environment, orienting means this capacity to see around us, to either orient in an exploratory way, so to check out something that's really interesting, to see a sunset, to look at the ocean, to look at the clouds in the sky. That would be exploratory orienting. The other type of orienting is defensive orienting. So that would be if there was a loud bang outside my house, let's just say I would maybe orient without even thinking about it. It would be an unconscious reflexive response. This is our nervous system working. That's our autonomic nervous system working. So that's one of the best ways I can describe how our autonomic nervous system takes care of us, right? It is alerting to potential danger. We orient to the threat. We hear the threat. We assess, is that safe, unsafe? And then we move from there. So one of the practices that I teach, the first practice I teach all of my students is this basic level of orienting. Now, some people find that this is a very soothing practice. They enjoy being guided, seeing the world around them, pausing, sensing their bodies in relationship with the ground, feeling the breath, not changing the breath, connecting with the tactile components of the body, all these things. Often, as I said, that feels really good for some people. And then others can't stand it. What they notice is that as soon as they drop into the environment and drop into their body system, from this perspective, they feel an immense, intense desire to run away, to stop doing the practice. There might be this sense of absolute threat, panic, terror. These are real words that people will use, and they'll say to me, in communication when we're doing this, because I will ask people, how are you noticing this? What are you feeling? And it's a common thing. I don't feel safe. I feel I'm in threat, and I want to run. I want to flee. Now, this is not wrong. So if someone feels this experience, if you have felt that experience while doing one of my classes, or maybe even you go to a yoga class, or you're feeling that just sitting down in your house one day and all of a sudden you have this intense fear or panic, whatever it might be, it's not that that is wrong. It is what your system is saying to you. It is talking to you. It is demonstrating what is internal within your physiology. So let me explain. If we have had a history, and if this is occurring, then chances are this is true. So if we've had a history of some form of traumatic stuff that has occurred to us, I say for simplicity's sake, bad things that occurred to us. Maybe we had an environment that wasn't safe. This doesn't have to be horrific abuse and big traumas like car accidents and poverty and war. It could just be, it wasn't safe to express yourself when you were young. It wasn't safe to eat when you were hungry. Maybe in school, you were not allowed to be who you were. So many of us were brought up in that system where we were conditioned to feel a certain way, be a certain way, just because that's the way it was. So what occurs is our natural desire, our impulse, our biological needs don't get met. And so we shut down our system. We may even brace. So brace is a way of saying contract in our muscles, in our diaphragm. That's what allows us to breathe. In our viscera, so in our guts, our hormonal system, our immune system, even our cardiovascular system. I know that seems like a huge stretch, but our entire organism goes into some form of threat response to keep us safe. So fast forward, so let's just say that occurred when we were really young, and multiple times. This is something that would occur over many, many times. We would call it these chronic micro traumas where we're having to brace, we're having to shut down because something just isn't right, and it's too much for us to feel as little people. Fast forward to now, we're adults, we're consciously wanting to go into this work, we're electively showing up to feel our nervous system, to work with it, to understand what is going on in here. And then you have me who's setting the tone and the stage, and in many ways putting this field of noticing these subtleties in our environment, in our breath, how we feel the ground. It's my specialty, so I know how to drop people into this state of sensing themselves at this level. If there is that unresolved bracing patterns, those unresolved fears, all those somatic qualities that we had to do to stay safe, when we drop into it as adults, we will feel the tension. We will feel the terror, the threat, the desire to want to run out of the house because you are not being listened to, or run out of the schoolroom because you were being picked on, or you were being put on the spot and you were terrified. Of course, there are 1,000,001 examples that I can give you, but I hope as you listen to this, you start to see how our past somatic history and the survival stress, so the fight, flight, freeze, so the desire to fight what is occurring to us. If we can't, we want to run away from it. Or if we can't run away and we can't fight, we shut down and we trap everything inside. So then again, fast forward to now, we feel these intensities when we drop into that level. The question, of course, is what do I do when I start to feel that terror, that panic, that desire to flee? There is this impending sense of fear and just, this is too much. That's where I might say to someone, you know what, take a break, get up, walk around a little bit. We actually want to break, it's not about denying what's being felt, feeling it, and if it's got a lot of energy, we might need to match that energy with standing up, walk around a little bit, but continue to feel that sensation. If you want to stay sitting, you can move a little bit. You can imagine that you're running in the spot, or you can move your arms a little bit. It's not about just shaking for the sense of shaking, but letting your system move, go into more of that sympathetic energy, but still staying connected to the ground, to the space around you, feeling your breath. You might even need to disconnect a little bit from the environment, but not disconnect from yourself. Some people might need to disconnect a little bit from what they're feeling, but for instance, I have a table right here. They might need to touch something and be like, okay, here I am, or maybe here I am. We can contain ourselves to help these intensities calm down. So when we're feeling these sensations, and that's essentially what terror, panic is, if we track it and we get good at tracking it, we'll notice a bracing somewhere in the viscera, maybe in the jaw, maybe in the hands, maybe in the groin. Our job when we feel these things is to sort of be a private investigator and look for it. When we can learn how to look for it, stay with it, not disconnect, but help ourselves stay more contained as opposed to completely shutting down and completely dissociating from our body, or going into a story in our head about what's going on, how can I fix this, how can I change this. If we can just be with what is happening, as scary as it might be, and even saying, this is really scary, I'm feeling something really intense, I don't know what it is, and I'm just gonna try these practices of staying with it, connecting, we could say grounding, It might be that you need to, like I said, walk around, move a little bit, go outside, get some fresh air, have a drink of water. If you have a support system, connect with them, etc., etc. The one thing I just wanted to really hit home in this short video is that when you feel these things, it's not that they're bad or wrong. It's just a notification from your internal physiology saying, hey, oh, you've decided to pay attention to us at this deep level. We're going to give you something to work on. I understand it doesn't feel the best, but think back to when you were younger. Think back to before you could make sense of this scary thing that occurred to you. Maybe it occurred to you when you were so little, a baby in utero, that you couldn't make sense of it. But now as an adult, you can make sense of it. You can choose how you react, how you act, so that you can start to dissipate that intensity and, how I like to say, become your own medicine.